Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So, welcome to Marketers for Regenerative Tourism. So, I would love to welcome you all today to discuss this very important topic and close to our heart to all of us. This Marketers for Regenerative Tourism is a program that was co funded by the European Union and it ran between September 2025 and March 2026. And that was the first edition, but it was so successful. We had so much interest that we decided to keep running this self-funded for the moment because we really wanted to continue these conversations and discuss more with you and really learn from one another. So although the EU co-funded program has ended in March 2026, we really want to continue the impact going, and that's why we decided to host this event once again, because last time we had over 100 registrations, and now today we are a bit more cozy group, which will allow us also to have more in-depth discussions together and so on, more time for questions. So I'm really excited to share this with you all. And just a quick note that we will have a second edition coming in autumn 2026. It's already in the works, and this will be an independent global program that it's already in the works, and we will share with you very soon. So the agenda for today, we will start with a very quick icebreaker, then some program highlights just to get the conversation started, and then we will have really more time for discussion, because last time we didn't have so much time for discussion and Q&A. We will create some breakout sessions so that you can connect with one another. And finally, we will have a time for sharing back and closing. And I wanted to really highlight that in this space, everyone learns from everyone. So we know that you are all working in amazing projects. And I think it will be very beneficial for all of us to learn from one another, not just you learning from our experience in this program. So just some quick guidelines, of course. Keep in mind that if you're not speaking, please just mute yourself. If you can have your camera on, it's always lovely to see faces and to speak to real people. Hold space for everyone in the room. Drop any questions in the chat. Veronica is looking at the chat. And of course, this session is being recorded. So now let's start with a little icebreaker. If tourism marketing was a movie, what would it be? Would it be a documentary? Would it be a horror story? Let's join in Mentimeter. Veronica, if you can please add it to the chat. And I would love to know. Let me start here. So if tourism marketing was a movie, what would it be? Comedy, drama, horror, documentary, romance, science fiction, reality TV, animation, or any other? I would love to know. Please vote by using the Mentimeter. Either join through this number here or scan the QR code, or Veronica has shared in the chat a link. All right, let's show the responses. So, interesting. Okay, we have here some mixed responses. So 50% reality TV. Interesting. So a lot of you think that tourism marketing would be a reality TV. And then some of you think that it's a drama. Very interesting. And 40% romance. Anyone who voted reality TV wants to share their thoughts briefly? Why did they choose reality TV? You're all shy.
I can share
Please.
something. Just this image of like The Apprentice, the horrible TV show, a reality TV show by, Trump came to mind, where the goal is just to make a lot of money and sell as much as you can and be the best one.
Exactly. That's very true. Anyone else wants to share why they chose romance briefly? I'm interested as well in knowing who chose romance.
I said romance because I think a lot of destinations are romanticized, and it's usually just like any marketing, you focus on the good and don't talk about the bad.
Very, very true. Thank you so much for sharing.
I was a bit ambiguous between reality TV and romance, exactly because of this argument.
Lovely. So it seems we are very aligned. The reasons are actually very similar to what we have been discussing again and again throughout this program. So thank you so much for sharing this. So we exactly see this. There's a big problem in tourism. So first of all, tourism is very uneven, right? We have cities that are super overcrowded, have so much social pressure and so on. And we know this with cities like Venice, Barcelona, Rome, and so many more. And at the same time, we know that rural regions are losing people, services, and identity. And at the end of the day, places are being treated as products and communities are reduced to experiences. So marketing's role in this, in tourism, is not neutral at all, actually contributes a lot to the current problems that we have in marketing, because marketing shapes the expectations before people arrive. And this was where romance comes in, what Kyla was saying, right? We romanticize places a lot and so on. And so it influences as well who comes, how, and why. And as Jimena mentioned, it's all about conversion and we just want to make sales and so on. So really marketing is a big part of the problem. So at the end of the day, marketing influences the economic patterns that we have currently. So if we keep sending people to the same places, we keep reinforcing this economic imbalance that we have. So we can continue to perpetuate this role of marketing or we can change it. And so that's the question that brought me and Anya to apply for this Erasmus Plus grant that we got for this program, Marketers for Regenerative Tourism, that's run between September to March 2026. And the question that we really had together was, what if tourism could restore rather than extract? We know that this is very ambitious and currently not really possible in our society, but we want to be optimistic and really try to be part of the solution step by step. So we can't achieve 100% regeneration, but we can take steps towards it. So across Europe, we know that there are already a lot of cool small scale initiatives such as, co-living spaces, territorial regeneration products, food, craft, culture-based experience, and so much more. And they are all rooted in this kind of well-being and regeneration and giving back to society. But they all really, in these rural areas, they share one common challenge that we identified, which is they need to be visible. And mostly they aren't, right? A lot of them try the traditional marketing tactics, right? Which pushes to this kind of growth and misalignment and growth at all costs that Jimena was also mentioning when she talked about the reality TV, right? So many of these rural areas and many tourism business really lack the tools to communicate without being extractive, without going back to these traditional marketing tactics that don't feel aligned. So there is a gap between the values of tourism regenerative space and the marketing practice. And that's where this program really came in. So our response was to create a program for marketers because there aren't that many programs for marketers in tourism. And so this program was very much focused on small scale initiatives. So we are not talking about Hyatt and all of these big places. No, we are talking about rural destinations that face these challenges. And it was very practical, very hands-on. And we had, you see here on the right, we had 10 people with us at a space called Tertulia Co-Living, which Anya will share shortly a little bit more about it. And we didn't want this knowledge to be just with us. We wanted to share it with you all. So from learning together to practice to then creating an open source toolkit, which I will share shortly in a bit. But yeah, so we have all of this knowledge ready for you to learn more and to apply it for your own context. I would love to invite Anya to talk a little bit more about this experience, particularly Tertulia Co-Living. Anya, are you here?
Yes, so Tertulia is sort of partly my base for some parts of the year. And I got here through to my own projects of running, let's say, impact programs and training programs and pop-up co-livings in Italy that always had this sort of regenerative focus of connecting, let's say, travelers and digital nomads with communities in places and mainly in nature, like in more rural settings, which is something very niche because there are a lot of, like Claudia mentioned, hotspots and the not so popular parts, let's say, of the countries are disregarded. I was on this path and then I found the space, or the space found me. I don't know. And it's, we decided to collaborate and also to host our program here because a lot of what I feel like the regenerative tourism is about, and also what reflecting Claudia's and the conscious marketing's values, we sort of found embodied here, you could say maybe. it was a good, or it is a good, amazing place to really see the impact and see how regenerative tourism can be lived and how actually like true connections and impact can be generated on local communities.
Absolutely. Tertulia co-living was our immersive environment. We really didn't want to learn just this in theory. We wanted to learn it in practice. And that's where Anya and her expertise and, of course, Tertulia co-living came in. So this program was hosted last year in Tertulia, and then we also had the part online. And so we really shared a lot on how to live in these rural areas and in these spaces. But we were not alone with Tertulia co-living, so I would love to invite Anya to share a little bit more about our ecosystem.
And these collaborations are really, really powerful. So you see some projects here, which are local projects or projects like Jerica who share a common mission and a bit broader than our own little ecosystem here in Toscana. The Mercato dei Contadini is a project that was born here from the space. So it was a group of local people who founded an association and founded the first organic, truly local farmers market here in the area in a very innovative way that builds community. There's events and things going on at the Mercato to make it a special happening. And it's one of my highlights every week when I'm here. And the Montagna Fiorentina is a project that got a huge grant, support or create positive impact in a neighboring region with participatory processes of involving the actual citizens of these villages and with the goal to make them proud again to come from a rural area and not wanting to escape to a city like it often is the case for locals. So we feel very aligned with these projects, and I don't know, it just motivates and is awesome to sort of be part of a bigger movement and a common vision.
Exactly, because we are so much stronger when we collaborate instead of compete. So these projects really supported the knowledge that we brought, but also gave us a lot of local insight, right? And that was super interesting. And I really invite everyone to explore a little bit more. So we wanted to wrap up with the takeaways of the first edition, and then we would love to hear from all of you as well. What are some questions that you might have and so on. So the lessons that we got from the first edition that ran in 2025 are the following. We have key 5 lessons. So regeneration begins where sustainability stops. So instead of asking how to do less harm, we are really trying to ask how can this place kind of thrive, right? So very similar to what we were saying about Montagna Fiorentina, right? They didn't this place to be deserted, these rural areas in Tuscany to be deserted. They really wanted to engage the locals to stay or even come back and so on and regenerate these areas, right? And build a community. So the second one was marketing decisions shape systems and not just sales, just like Jimena was talking about, that we are obsessed with conversions, right? Here we really stopped and we rethought the role of marketing, right? So marketing determines who arrives, how places are used, what communities gain or lose at the end of the day. The third thing is for a tourist business to be very clear on who are the people that they want to attract. And we discussed this a lot with Tertulia specifically. We were thinking about, should we have retreats in Tertulia with corporations? Should we have co-livers who come for more time and so on? So we had a lot of these discussions on who was the right audience for Tertulia while we were there. And the participants created a strategy for each audience, and which was very interesting. And you can find more in the toolkit as well. So when we remove pressure and set honest expectations, also alignment improves. Another thing that I think it's quite uncomfortable to discuss in marketing settings is that restraint is a strategic choice. And this is about when not to market. So we are obsessed with bringing always more quantity to a specific space, right? And we need to learn when this space has actually reached the capacity. For example, Tertulia co-living, we know that is a small space that can host up to 12 people. Do we need 100 people to come to Tertulia co-living? No, right? So we just need to really think about what are we trying to bring to Tertulia? Do we want Tertulia to go viral overnight and be in every Instagram account, and then suddenly they're overbooked, they're too much capacity at the end, they don't have the resources also to respond to such a boom, right? So we really have to think about whether how are we marketing these places? How do we bring people, like, and be careful when the capacity has reached? And the fifth one, and perhaps one of the most important, is that we have to see regenerative tourism in real practice. So we talk a lot about these concepts in a very theoretical manner, and that's why this project really stand out, because we were at Tertulia Co-Living at the space that has real challenges, real visibility challenges, but also capacity challenges, very small scale, rural area, not so accessible in some ways, right? And so we need to be there in person to really understand all of this and talk with the locals and really connect, right? So hypotheticals don't teach accountability. At the end of the day, real places and real stakes do. So before we get going, Anya, I don't know if you want to add anything to what I just shared here with the takeaways.
Yeah, actually, when you were talking about restraining, I think to add maybe not just the capacity, but also the fact that we are really looking to attract the right people. So maybe it's less people, but it's the ones that are really aligning and see the value we're providing here. We're not trying to reach everyone, but rather be selective, let's say.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. So, yeah, so we have an invitation to you all. And of course, then we will start our discussion. But we really wanted to invite you to explore our open source toolkit, because obviously within 30 minutes, within 1 hour, we can't share all of the things that we've learned together. So I would love to invite you to just go to our website, Marketers for Regenerative Tourism, and you can click download the toolkit, and this will appear. You have 48 pages with more details about this project, where you can really learn from what we've done together. And for example, I just wanted to show you here, it has like real case studies. It will talk about what are the principles, of course, but then it will put things into practice. So what is traditional marketing? How do we do conscious marketing? What are the principles that guide it? How do we choose our channels? And then we also have like space for you to like create and adapt your own campaigns and the specific space that you are running potentially, or that you're working on. And here are the living examples. So of course we talk about Tertulia Co-Living in depth. We talk about Montagna Fiorentina and so on. So I really invite you all. And if you have already read the toolkit, amazing. We will talk about more shortly. So apply it in your work, and we would love to invite you all to join our future program in autumn 2020. We will be running an online program this year, and we are also looking to continue this potentially next year and so on, not just in Tertulia Co-Living, but maybe going to other spaces. Who knows, you might want to host this program at your venue, at your co-living space. Annie and I are very open to explore what other regions we can help within the European Union, because there's so much to do when it comes to rural areas and co-livings and regenerative tourism and so on. So now I would like to take a moment to bring back the discussion to the group. You've heard a lot about our program. Of course, I'm sure that you might have explored a little bit before this call. So I would like to take some maybe questions or any comments, anything that came to you while we were talking.
I had a question. As an online program, how like will we be working with the same organizations that you did the first year, but just from an online format?
Yes, so at the moment we are still co-creating a little bit, but Tertulia will be our foundation for the whole project for this year, so that we really build upon what we have already learned together, but we will also have the chance for you to apply for your own context, because we want to have kind of a foundation and then be able to translate this into other regions, right? So we'll have a little bit of both, and that's why we are doing it online this time around. And we are looking to learn more from other regions, because now we've learned a lot about Tertulia, and it's interesting for us to bring this program to other spaces. Thank you, Kyla. Eletra?
Yes. First of all, we're of course waiting for your new release since then just in Venice scared us.
Yes, let's do it.
But I wanted to say something from before. When I voted reality TV. I don't know OTV, so I've never seen a reality TV show. So I guess I didn't have the same idea of reality TV show in my mind, because for me, I voted for the opposite when you were trying to market a community. I think his question is not related. When we're trying to bring people in our community, we're showing life.
Yes, I like that idea too.
So it is like we're not trying to market it as perfect, and we're trying to show what is real life, because it's difficult, because life is difficult there. And if you market it as something perfect and romanticize it, etc., you will have people coming and not find what they're looking for.
That's such a good point, and I love that because I mean, when we were in Tertulia last year, we had a situation where we had so many bugs that suddenly came out of nowhere. And of course, when you see all those beautiful pictures of us together, you don't see the bugs, right, that were around us from time to time. So I like this idea of the reality TV because that's how we felt also in person there. Of course, it's beautiful to think about. Oops, sorry for my dog. Think about this rural areas and when you see those beautiful pictures of landscapes and so on. But you also have to live there. And I know, Eletra, you work very closely with these regenerative areas, and you live in a community. So you also have such a beautiful space that could be an amazing experience for us to do next. You know, and Anya, I have to tell you more about Eletra's project later. Anyone else wants to share something? I would love to know. Yes, Diva, go ahead.
I just want to raise a marketing question. When you were talking about finding the right people, in traditional marketing practices, we do the targeting, right? So if it's a paid ad, we set out audiences, location, demographics, and things like that. I guess a question for everyone here is what else? It's like, what other ways we can, first of all, discover what the real people, the perfect people are, the perfect match for the place is. And when we have those personas, people, kind of groups, how do we find them? Maybe someone can share something from their experience.
Do you want to answer to Diva or is unrelated?
No, it's another topic.
Okay. Anyone wants to answer to Diva's question to the audience? We are all like, we wish we would know.
Right. Okay. Then can leave this for the program.
Exactly. I mean, anyone else wants to share? Yes, Jackie, go ahead. I was just kidding. If you have an answer, please tell us.
Yeah, it's not really the answer, but it's like the pathway. I believe when we have a good messaging on social medias or on the website about our values and our mission, because I work with eco resorts and farm to table restaurants, so it's more than just a place to go to eat. It's more than just a place to go and stay. So when we share our missions and our values on the social content, we attract the right people. Of course, there's people that's just there in the area and they like the eco resort, so they're not completely aligned with the sustainable practice, but mostly the right people are coming.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing, Jackie. We actually dive a lot into this content as well on whether, like, what is the right channel for a certain space. We also discussed with Tertulia. Of course, we love social media in general, but we know that the founder, for example, doesn't like social media. So what are the other channels that we can use that are not social media and so on? So there are so many different things that we can discuss on this audience question, and it's super, super interesting. Thank you so much for bringing it to us, Diva. Eletra, do you want to answer to Diva, or do you have a different? Yes, please go ahead.
Well, one thing, of course, the communication has to be very, very clear. But even if super clear and you explain everything, there will always be people who come and say, but I thought that this thing that's on your website was 3 years ago. But one thing, I have volunteers from my work away, and I usually say yes to everybody. One thing that I see in the messages where I will say no is when people tell me that they want to come to get out of their comfort zone.
Very interesting.
We're too far away from anyone's from those people's comfort zone to be their first experience in eco projects. So maybe I know that for me, knowing that those people already have some kind of experience is important, because someone, even if they're super motivated and really want to get out of their comfort zone, if they don't know what it really means, they might have to go first to something a little bit less less nature based.
Very good point. What is the space? How can people experience the space also based on their own background, right? Like for someone that is completely new, they might not really be ready for it, right? That's what I'm hearing from what you're saying, Iletra. Jimena, let's hear from you now. I know that you've been waiting for a little while. Tell us.
Yeah, no, I really love your point 4 about restraint. I think it's a really bold, unnecessary one to put there. And I know, of course, it's not only about the marketing part of it, but also about the business plan. So when to aim for restraint, when not growing your business more. How did you approach it? How can you get the insight from also a business owner's perspective, saying like, this is enough?
Yes, this is an amazing question. So we also based ourselves in some case studies, and one particular was in Japan. So in Japan recently, they closed a destination. They had this like sakura festival and so on. And they recently decided to shut it down because locals were absolutely exhausted of this, right? They didn't have space to live anymore. It was just a destination. And so I think there's a lot of backlash that is starting to happen as well in Europe. I mean, you see in Barcelona people throwing eggs and whatsoever to tourists, you know. So it's clear that not just the businesses, but the governmental side needs to start to think about what is a reasonable amount of people in a space and what's not, and how can we even think about, I don't know, maybe times, etc. I know that in Greece particularly they are doing this booking slot to visit the, now it's not coming to me, the ruins and so on. You know, they are trying to manage this better from a tourism business perspective. I mean, Tertulia doesn't have this problem yet, right? They are not as visible to have people overflowing to Tertulia at this point. But instead of the problem happening later, we are trying to address it now. Now that we are trying, that Tertulia became so much more visible thanks to this program as well, right? Now all of you have heard of Tertulia. We are actively thinking, okay, what is too much? We don't have, of course, all the solutions, but we are, I think just the fact that the mindset is there is already very important. Anya, I don't know if you want to add something here to what I've just said. You're good? All right. Thank you. Niels?
Yes, in addition to what you have told about now, in Switzerland, we have, just as an example, last year, there were some people, some Asians, or I don't know where from, it isn't, never mind. They were playing football on a cemetery meadow because they didn't recognize in Grindelwald the cemetery as it is, and they were not conscious about, and it was a real scandal. And in Switzerland, we have some very few really hot spots, like Iseltwald from the South Korean soap and so on. They organize, they try to explore, but we have a lot of places which are really, they have more place even in a regenerative way. The strategy is to distract people from the hotspots, but that's the problem. Social media is one point, but there is also a mentality. They want to commit to the crowd. So it's a very basic need in the majority of humans to commit to a certain community. And there I don't have the answer, thinking about very often how we can distract people from the hotspot and attract to more regenerative or without exploiting them too much, and really to empower them to get lonely, maybe a bit extreme, but more single, and to give them the trust that they won't be lost on these ways.
Yes.
A very
Such
big
a good
question for me.
It's a beautiful question. Thank you so much for sharing, Niels. So how this is what brought us to create this program, right? And we are not here to tell you that we have all the solutions, and that's why this program is going to continue to be a work in progress. We've tested things out in Tertulia, and we want to keep this program going. We want to use Tertulia as our base to keep building and creating more case studies, and potentially in the next years even host this program in different areas. So thank you so much, Niels. Philippa, I would love to hear from you.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, these are all such interesting topics, and I feel like I'm quite a bit older than a lot of people in this group, but I've seen destinations that I was promoting. My region is India, Nepal, Sri Lanka. And I've seen destinations that I was promoting 20, 25 years ago as really special and extraordinary become completely spoilt by over tourism. And it breaks my heart, and I'm a traveler. I work in the travel industry. I work as a consultant. I've just finished a guidebook on sustainable stays of India. And you see these places that just get completely spoiled. And I think what that made me do was really think about where I was writing about. And if I was going to a place that could ultimately really struggle with overdevelopment, then I was very reluctant to write about it. If I went somewhere really special and really unique that you could tell that you knew it couldn't, like the place that you're talking about in Italy, the people don't want it to, they're going to keep it small. I know some fantastic places where you can go and stay that can't be developed around. So those places, you talk about them because, and there's only, 10 rooms in those places. So when they're full, they're full. And if you want to go, you book for the next year or the year after or the year after. So it's really making a conscious choice about the places that you do discuss and talk about. And, I've built my entire career on much more experiential and offbeat travel. And it's focusing on those stories and those experiences to get people into those more rural and more offbeat destinations and away from the mainstream. And I think what's interesting now is people do want the hotspots, people do want the bucket list, but people are also now wanting to avoid over tourism. So it's beginning to have a shift the other way. But I think the one thing that struck me on your 5 points was that those communities need space too, and they have to be respected. And the amount of people going in and how much time people spend there, that giving those communities their space is a really important point.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Philippa, for sharing your reflections. They are really important and they resonate so much. And then I'm glad to have this conversation in a group of people who do marketing at the end of the day, because we have a big responsibility to also say no. And we are obsessed. I mean, I know that we don't have the full control of the business. Most of the time we are at the end of the chain and they just tell us, stop and make it viral and when we are tired of this. And I think it's time for us to say, no, this is not how we want to operate. And it's a very brave and difficult decision. Margarida, I know you wanted to speak, but I just wanted to give shortly the voice to Daiva because it seems like she had a reflection on top of what Filippa was saying. Is that right, Daiva? You wanted to say something?
I did exactly. I just wanted to say exactly what you said, Claudia. It raised the question of the responsibility of the marketers, because a lot of the time when I was contacted to promote various retreats and experiences, you just kind of, you work with the material that you're given. So this is our responsibility to take a step back and question, what is the place? Why am I promoting this? Is it actually a good place for people to come and be? Is it a good place for the local communities and things like that? And very often you don't have enough information, and you have a lot of gigs going at the same time, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to write copy for this. I'm going to put these ads, and you just kind of, it speaks on the larger problem of us as marketers. How do we operate? How do we, because we need to also run our businesses and survive and want to make impact. So I think I would be very curious to explore during the program, go deeper into the responsibility of a marketer, because it's, as we often say with Claudia, like, we can't also solve everything, right? So sometimes it's also unfair to maybe to put too much of a responsibility of a marketer, because it's a relationship with business owners and so on and so forth. But I do think there might be some interesting insights for us as an industry to come together and maybe come up with some sort of, I don't know, I don't want to call them a guidelines, but just some support of like, what is our role in this?
Absolutely. I mean, we can build on the toolkit, and we were also considering on having a follow-up toolkit on new things that will surge in this new program that we are going to do in autumn 2026. We were supposed to do breakout rooms, but I think we have such an exciting conversation here, so we are going to skip the breakout rooms. Sorry about that, but hopefully we'll have a new event and you can continue to join us. So I'd love to give the voice to Margarida. Margarida, tell us more.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you so much for all of this, because this is my first time here. I feel like an outsider because although my background is in tourism, my academic background, I shifted to marketing, but my work in marketing is as a social media manager for online education and health tech. So nothing related to this, but lately I've been working a lot with remote work, and I have my own community about it where I help Portuguese speaking people to get remote jobs. And now I'm shifting to help these rural areas, developing communities of remote workers that want to be in that town or in that area. But usually the focus is a lot about attracting digital nomads, and my work is more focused on let's give the Portuguese people an opportunity to know how to get a remote job and to be in their own land, that they don't have to migrate to the big cities so they can have jobs. So my work is very focused on this, and I'm starting to work with a few towns about this, and I wonder if this program would also be helpful for me, although it's not tourism. Is kind of I can get the learnings from it and apply it to this cultural animation and development of these rural areas for remote workers. And I was curious because I'm also very new to these regenerative practices things, but I do believe that remote work can be a regenerative tool because it helps in so many areas, in public health and sustainability and anything, even economics. So I'm very curious to see, I really want to be part of the program. I'm curious to know when are you going to send more details, so as the price or when it starts, because I really want to be part of it. And yeah, thank you so much for this.
Obrigada, Margarida. So yes, we are super excited that you are so keen in joining us. And I think I wanted to say to everyone here, every background is welcome. We are not just doing this for tourism professionals. And actually, this is about systems
Maybe can
change.
I add something for
Yes,
or
of
answer
course.
the
Please.
concern? You're right for the program, because everything you're describing is exactly the background I have as well, with building communities for digital nomads and remote workers. And I think then the aspect of regeneration came in, and you can really choose your angle. And so I would say big yes, because this is how the work I'm doing now started and developed. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to hear it.
Exactly. So Tertulia, how we've been even talking about the audience, we focused a lot also on digital nomads, like the co-livers would be digital nomads. So it's very much connected to the work that you're doing. And I think Niels was nodding when you said that's amazing that you're focused on the local community moving within the local community. And I also agree. I think that's so beautiful and something to consider for Tertulia, even for next. So I really think that we can learn so much from one another in this program. And we will definitely send more information in the coming weeks, potentially June. We wanted to have this event first before we finalize the program, because we also wanted to hear a bit more what were people looking for, how can we really make the most of this time together. It's going to be between 6 to 7 weeks, all online. We'll have one call per week. It's gonna really help to have a self-paced part where you learn the materials, and then we will come to the calls to engage more, to talk more, because you'll have the materials accessible to learn offline, let's say, and we want to make the most of these calls to explore more together and learn from one another. So that's the whole idea around it. So we're not going to come to these calls to just have a slide in 1 hour and you're just podcasting and going around. No, you're going to come and you're going to engage, we were going to make you work, we promise. So that's important. I know that we are almost reaching the end of our event. We have about 5 minutes left, but I feel like we have a lot of synergies here. I wanted to connect. I think, Philippa, you were saying that you were working on Sri Lanka, and I know Aditya is also working, right? was it India or Sri Lanka? I can't remember. You told me last time in the other event. So maybe the two of you could connect offline as well. Is that right, Aditya? You can correct me if I'm wrong. I remember you from the last event. Perfect.
Yeah, that kind of makes us neighbors in a way.
That's right. So maybe there's some synergies there, and I'm sure that all of you could connect further. I mean, there's so much to discuss. We have just a couple of minutes left. But I wanted to invite you, first of all, if you're not part of the Conscious Marketing Movement online community, please join us because we will continue to host events like this. The next one is already in June. Veronica, do you want to share a little bit about the next event, just very shortly, if you happen to be here?
Yes, we'll pretty much just, as we spoke today, talk about a few marketing campaigns that potentially didn't hit the mark or may have hit the mark in certain aspects and didn't in other ways, and pretty much just have like a little chat about how we can do better in these marketing campaigns, specifically for these places. So yes, I hope that made sense.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Veronica. So yes, we are gonna continue to have hosting these free events, because we want to make it as inclusive as possible. And then the program, the Marketers for Regenerative program, will be paid, but we will try to make the price accessible for everyone to join and be part of the discussion. So we'll have different tiered pricing as well. We are planning that. And of course, the toolkit is always free and available to everyone. So we are trying to make this as accessible as possible. So yeah, before I close, I wanted to hear from Jackie. Yes, Jackie?
How can we connect with everyone who participated today?
Yes, so I will send an email between today and the end of the week. But in the meantime, you can explore our online community. I will just very briefly share my screen. So we have a completely free online community. And if you go to the member directory of this online community, you will be able to connect with people that are part of this movement, part of the conscious marketing movement, part of this call. For example, we can find Margarida here, or we can even just type here if we want to find her, Margarida Porto. And here she is, you see? So, and then you can connect with her, you can message her. So if I want to say, hi, Margarida, nice to have you in the call today, I can do that. So you have various ways within the online community to connect with people and to continue these discussions. So, oops, what happened? Here, for example, we have a share and discuss space where we really start these conversations offline because, we can't host events every week. Obviously, it's not sustainable for us as well. And it's also about our own regeneration. But we try to host an event once a month and then we continue the discussion offline. So this is kind of a private social media for people who believe marketing is part of the solution. So we are not big fans of social media due to algorithms and visibility and all that we know. So we created our own private social media where we discuss these difficult topics in a very much mission aligned space because everybody has to apply to be part of this space. So it's filtered, not everyone. So we accept everybody but not all behaviors, if that makes sense. So yeah, with this I would like to bring us all to the end of this event. So I will send a follow-up email with the recording for those who couldn't join us, the online community for those who haven't joined the online community yet, and later on the next steps if you want to continue this journey with us. So we'll have an event in June, on 9th June, if I'm not mistaken. That is kind of a follow-up. So destination marketing will be the next topic. And then we'll continue. We'll take a little break between July and August due to European summer. But then we are back in September and the program will also start end of September, okay? Of course, you're more than welcome to connect with me offline if you have questions. I believe you have my email or Veronica's email or Anya's email, so feel free to continue this discussion. I really appreciate you all taking this hour to be present with me today, to be in discussion and to learn from one another. So I hope that you have a wonderful week ahead of you. I will be taking a few days off because it's my birthday on Saturday. So if you see some out of office replies, you know why. But yeah, so I'm not sure now that I think about it, I might send the follow-up email next week. I was too ambitious, but yeah, you will hear from me very soon. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Have
you.
a great
Thank you
day.
so much. Bye.
Bye bye.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.